crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and I'm here with another video for the New Nook Designs July release. As you know, by this point there are a lot of amazing products being released throughout the week. It's to celebrate the 3-year anniversary of New Nook Designs, and there are 7 new stamp sets and 4 new dies, and most of the dies are coordinating dies. However, there is this standalone hibiscus die that I'll be working with today. And I thought the hibiscus die, I'm sorry, I'm going to have trouble over that word, I can tell. It is really pretty and it has some intricate details to it. And I thought that it might be helpful to share a few tips for trying to color in the die cut. Now, of course, you could color your paper and then die cut second, but I found that if you look at pictures of hibiscuses online, they can come in a lot of colors, and you can get some, like, the center of the flower might be very different than the outside of the flower, and the die cut cuts the center out separately. And so I wanted to share that option of cutting them out in that way, and also just how, if you wanted to color the pieces individually, how like a quick tip for helping out with that. So what you can see here is that I cut out the flower a couple of times, and this is before I took the die apart. And then I covered the back with Post-it note tape. Post-it note tape isn't too sticky, and it's kind of like masking tape. You probably could try something similar, but masking tape sticks a little bit more and it might be hard to get your dies back out. And I find that Post-it tape is relatively inexpensive and easy to find. Like, I was able to find Post-it tape at my grocery store, so you don't have to go anywhere special for it. You don't have to go out to the office supply store or whatever. So I wanted to show a couple different coloring options. Here I'm coloring with Copic markers, and since I have placed it back inside of its fitted piece here, I don't have to hold the piece down as I color it. And I can add some interest to the leaves, making it darker in the center or something like that. Whereas if I had colored a piece of cardstock green or just cut it out of a piece of green cardstock, it would be a little bit less interesting. And so I like that you can get a little bit of interesting detail, and it makes it, to me, a lot easier to color. I tried to color one of these leaves without putting it down, like holding it down with some Post-it tape, and it was kind of like I was getting marker on my hands and it was going everywhere. If you don't want to fit it back into its area, this kind of inlaid thing that I'm doing right now, you could simply put a piece of the Post-it tape onto your work surface and tape down the tape and create a similar effect, but I think it's just as easy to put them back inside of the die cut. So I was also able to color them with distress inks with this method. So you see I only have leaves in there right now, because if I had all my die cut pieces in there, I would be getting ink all over pieces that I didn't want. However, as you can see a little bit later in the video, I do accidentally get ink from one leaf onto another. And so you might want to take your leaves out as you finish them so that you don't add any extra color accidentally. So I did distress ink, I did Copic markers, and now I'm just taking an ink pad and I'm going to color it. And this is a Hero Arts ombre ink pad. So I will get a little bit of, again, interest in it, and it will be darker at the bottom and lighter at the top. However, you can see that sometimes pulling your Hero Arts ink pad or any ink pad across the surface can cause those pads to lift up from the bottom. So maybe not the best thing to do with your pads. However, I have found that if the ink pads come off the backing, and I mentioned this in a video earlier this week, you can actually just glue them back on with some super glue. But, you know, maybe just be a little bit more gentle with your ink pads than I am. But it is another way you could add some color. Pretty much any coloring medium that is in your craft room can be used to color these dies. I am going to use some of the Prima watercolor oil pastels here. They do pull up the paper a little bit because I'm not using watercolor paper, but you could just cut it out of watercolor paper and use your zigs or your, like I have the Inktense pencils, colored pencils. Anything that you have is going to add some fun color to these. I particularly like the Prima oil pastels because they are so bright, but you can get a similar look with gelatos. I thought color burst would be really fun with these too, but in that case I would probably put the color burst all over the paper and then die cut the leaves. So many possibilities with this particular die set. I think will be really fun. So I wanted to do something similar with the flower image. I placed the flower back in, including the center. So everything about the flower is in right now, and I'm adding a light pink and then a darker pink. I believe it was spun sugar and picked raspberry. Then I wanted to go in with a little bit of the wilted violet and add that to the center, because if you look at pictures of hibiscuses online, there's a lot of different possibilities for how to color them, and they're really pretty flowers that can go like from purple in the center to pink on the edge like I'm doing here, but a lot of other really awesome color combinations too. However, because you only want to add a little bit of ink in the center, I might recommend something smaller to apply the ink. You have the Tim Holtz the Tim Holtz blending tools that are round and they're pretty small, but there's like those finger daubers that are even smaller that might be better. Or like there, I have some stencil brushes, and those apply distress ink really well and are smaller. So think about the possibilities of what you have going on in your room to apply color and see if you get different results with different things. Now, once I have added color to the entire outside, I will be able to add some extra color to the inside. And so you see here, I'm actually using the stencil brush instead, and I'm getting a lot better results. I don't have the fancy, expensive Clarity stencil brushes, and I'm sure that they, work beautifully and probably give slightly different effect than these. But these are the cheapo Martha Stewart ones that you can get at, any old craft store. Michael's has them. You can get them on Amazon. I'll link them up. But they, for the most part, do the job. I do find using like a swirling motion with them is pretty helpful, but you can also use a dabbing motion that takes a little bit longer. And then I wanted to make the center of the flower the darkest, and so I took the large part of the flower, the outer part of the flower, off and continued to add ink into the center to make it look a little bit darker. And since I really just wanted to kind of show you that tip and show you the different ways you can color them, I'm going to keep the rest of the card really clean and simple. I just took a 3x6 piece of white cardstock. I like to use the 110 pounds from Michael's. I, generally like the results of it, and it's a little bit easier for me to get my hands on reliably. And I scored it at the 3-inch mark with my Teflon bone folder and my Martha Stewart mini scoreboard. And then I am going to stamp a sentiment on here. But before I stamp the sentiment, I want to think about where I'm going to place my flower. And you see this purple flower. I'm pairing it with the Copic colored leaves because I used Copic colors to color this flower. Because again, all those different color mediums in your craft room will do the trick. And I thought I would glue the leaf down flat and then put a little dimension behind the flower for some added interest. And so I just let the foam tape cover the center, and basically it's adhering the inner part of the flower to the outer part of the flower just because the foam tape is covering everything there. And I want to get down the flower so that I don't stamp in the wrong spot. However, because it's popped up on foam tape, you want to be a little bit careful that there's no ink on your Misty, because when you lay down the lid of the Misty, it's going to touch that flower. And so if there's even a little bit of ink there, it could be problematic. However, of course, you could just stamp with Stamp Block. I'm only stamping some simple sentiments. When I do a clean and simple card, I really like it to turn out perfect the first time. And so I tend to reach my Misty since I have that tool. But of course, a Stamp Block would do just fine. In order to glue the little stamen from the center, I am just using the Multimedia Matte from Ranger. I like it better than the glossy accents because if any of it sort of splooges out the side, it's not going to add any gloss or shine to my hibiscus. Now, of course, in real life, a hibiscus would not be glittery, but I think that it would be really fun to add some like Wink of Stella over the hibiscus or something like that. Or spray it with some perfect pearls or something like that, so you could place it back into the die cut sheet just like you did for coloring, and then just spray the outer part of the flower or just spray the inner part of the flower and get some added interest there. I am stamping the Aloha greeting. This stamp is from the Aloha Newton stamp set, sorry. And so it's a whole stamp set with different images of Newton in Hawaii or tropical areas, and it has the aloha sentiment, which makes you think of Hawaii because that's Hawaiian. But you could use it for any other sort of island scene, because Newton is laying in some beautiful hibiscus flowers, and then Newton's in a hammock, which is perfect for any beach scene, of course. And there's the aloha and the mahalo sentiments, but also some other fun sentiments. And I'm just going to stamp the aloha sentiment in a couple different places to really fill up all that extra area and balance out the size and weight of the flower. Now, as I was working, I didn't realize that I was slowly creeping off the screen here. And so, sorry that you can't really see, but again, I'm just stamping things down as solid stamping. And I added a couple of the solid hearts from the stamp set as well, just to add a little bit more interest. And I did the same thing with both of them. And then for a little bit of added detail, decided to round the corners. I really like the We Are Memory Keepers corner chomper because it gets through thick cardstock really beautifully, but also can do chipboard and everything like that. And so it's worth the investment, in my opinion. And that is it for my cards today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you are interested in more crafting tutorials, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Check out the links in the video description below to see the products that I use, but also to go to the blog and participate in the blog hop, enter for your chance to win a gift certificate to Newton's Nook Designs, and to follow me on social media. Thanks for watching. Bye.